Apocalypse, we need to understand the true etymology of the word, which is the falling away of the mask, or the shedding of the mask, of the skin, of the false light. Of the old paradigm, of the arcane constructs and conceptual frameworks, which were essentially psychocultural, psycho-civilizational masquerading as children of God. So for thousands of years, arguably millions of years, we've been incarnating, dipping in and out of this third density temporal realm, and we're all part of the genesis of it. We're all part of the ancient storylines and narratives that eventuated from the ancient world up till today. In the tribal trust lands and the indigenous wastelands today of the Aboriginal peoples, we have the people wrecked by poverty and by dis-ease and by diabetes and by poverty and wretchedness in many parts of the world. Emphasis North America. Look at the Hopi nation, the Aboriginal peoples in Australasia. I've had this conversation with a number of the hereditary elders and even leaders, which is that they themselves today are the souls of the white imperialists going back hundreds of years, now come back in to become the souls inside of these Native Americans and Native Aboriginal peoples to suffer the end of the cycle that we began. Yeah, and a number of them acknowledge this and recognize this. The more advanced adepts and shamanic people, they recognize this, that this is an interweaving, interbraiding, and interfolding of old waves of souls that began the travesty of history and are now having to suffer the indignity at the end of the cycles that they began. So when you understand that that's actually at the meta level what is happening with cultural cycles and civilizational cycles, why are so many people believing that they're fucking Queen of Sheba or Cleopatra or Alexander the Great reborn? Well, that's because in a sense we are all part of an old soul group that was around at that time, and we fractated out and we've come back in variously, remembering aspects of that ancient epoch, that ancient time, and it's come back in because it's written into our DNA, it's written into our psycho and galactic records. None of that matters. Again, what matters is the here and now, and the degree to which we can actualize and awaken within the dream and then become the new progenitors of manifest destiny. But to answer your question, 2025 was a year of apocalypse in many, many ways. I started the year in Africa. I went back to my home in Bali in February and spent about 2.5, 3 weeks there with Chief Phil Lane Jr.
So this song is our chief white buffalo calf pipe song. These are words. It says this. Kola Chalachu says, friend, do it this way. Whatever you do in life, do it with all your heart and soul. If you get knocked down, get up. If you get knocked down 1,000 times, get up 1,000 times. If you do it that way, yes, sister, we're going to see you.
Yes.
My contact is going to see you.
Yes.
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 Then it says, here's the covenant. The covenant. When one sits in the sacred hoop of the people, one must be responsible.
Yes.
Integrity. Be chosen to be a leader of the people.
The Balinese high priest came in. Steven Seagal, my beloved friend who now lives in Russia, courtesy of his diplomatic status, came in as well to conduct a ceremony. We did the 8th fire ceremony.
And now, let us reflect on our beloved animal relatives. Right here, the butterfly. How many places there's no more butterflies flying around? No more fireflies. I used to see fireflies everywhere. Factory farming of animals. Can you imagine human beings being replaced by cows or pigs? Can you imagine what it would be like to be pushed down those things and have our heads cut off? That's who they feel, the same as we do.
Sacrifice of innocence.
Yeah, sacrifice of innocence.
That was a very profound and meaningful ceremonial enactment which we did, and that then led toward the Midsummer's Day consecration and proclamation event which we did in Tennessee,
Clear the land of the earth and this community.
when we took the New Earth Sanctuary land that we've acquired there with our pioneering circles, and we took that land and consecrated it back to the Genesis treaties of the First Nation peoples of the Americas, which is to say the world. And I could go into that detail, but I won't labor it here. But the point being, doing the 8 fire ceremony there in Tennessee, which is what we call Tennessee, it's the true Cherokee name, that was immensely powerful, that event. I've not released the film yet. I'm many months late in doing so because I've been just way too busy to be able to do it. But it's coming out. But we had at that a proclamation event and the consecration event, hereditary elders and leaders from around the world. We had 300 or 400 people flew in from around the world to attend over those 2 days. We had military generals. We had people as part of Donald Trump's inner circle there in attendance. We had Laura Eisenhower, Dr. David Martin, Chief Sabrina Whitehorse Barnett, incredible pantheon of icons and people who were all leaning in and lending their legacy, lending their acumen into what it was that we are doing, which was piercing the corporate veil, piercing the veil of the dead, of the Borg, of Washington District of Columbia, of the war machine, of the parent corporation, of the imperial hegemony of 500 years of Saturnian rollout of genocide and death and destructivity that came through the Vatican complex, and going back to the time of the Caesars of Rome and the doomsday in 1066 and the registration of living souls and the tabulation of every square inch of land and the fictionalizing of humanity, of the sons and daughters of God, of the indentureship of the living sons and daughters of God over the last couple of thousand years into a state of death and entropy. So that last year was really those of us who could see through the veil, understood the alchemy that we were required to enact and embody, to manifest. And we did that. And I was very much a part of that process. And it was fucking difficult, but we pulled it off. And then I returned back to Africa and continued to thread the emergence of the micronation in Africa that we're establishing for the new earth, not just in one location, but in multiple locations in Africa. Africa is about to become recognized as the central cornerstone of the next global economy, the emergent economy of the world. So I've built those relationships with the hereditary kings and chiefs and governments to some extent. We're dealing at a governmental level as well in order to thread a bridge between the corporate fiction, the corporate governments, and the hereditary legacy leaderships, which is really what's being restored now to the world. So in the next 2 to 3 years, we will see all around the world a restoration of the hereditary leadership taking a preeminence, in a sense, as the fiction of the corporate governments stand down under the weight of their own satanic jurisdiction and nonsense, which is to do with fiat economics and the poisoning of air, water, and soil, the capturing of the human souls through registrations and tabulations. All of that begins to move into a state of dissolution now in 2026. But be sure 2025 was that year of the line in the sand. And on a more personal level, it is the distinction between the living and the dead, in as much as, are you still addicted to drinking alcohol? Are you addicted to pornography? Are you addicted to synthetic molecules? Are you embracing the organic sentient aspect of your status as a living child of God, or are you still indentured into the false light? So that was also the dividing line. Now 2026, we see as we move through the equinox, which is the true seeding of the new year coming up, we will see a vertical upshift occurring where those meek who inherit the earth are going to, who have done the work in that sense and have already aligned frequency X, which is the heart and above. They've aligned that frequency in themselves to the field of God's creation, and they will find themselves moving into the affirmative upshift of the biological ascension. And those who have not and have chosen to peg themselves into the synthetic, into the entropic, they, alack, will find themselves being pulled into the vortex of the kingdom of the devil, who in that sense has earned its right to take, as the fallen light of Atlantis moves into dissolution, you will see that the kingdom of the devil is able to take the lower frequency sets of the human soul will be departing with it. There are no longer draconian imperial reptiles on the inner earth, or even in the hyperspheres that are controlling proxies on earth through the demonic realms. That's also a thing of the past. So in a sense, it's all good. Everything that we're seeing is good, but we still need to witness, apparently, the collapse of the fallen light of Atlantis, which is to say, the idea of Third World War, the idea of imperial hegemony 2.0, and digitization of the world, and hypersurveillance and Starlink and all. So we're still seeing the treachery of the threat, the existential threat of absolute control of the Borg, but it's not real, because the geometry of light is actually supporting the emergence of the children of God. I'll leave it at that.
Wow.